morning. I'm Katie Craig. I'm Lisa's god sister, and I really appreciate all of your help in putting today's event together and also for coming out in full force. You know, it's not hard to imagine celebrating Lisa's life. She really embodied celebration, and yet, of course, it's very difficult to celebrate her so soon after losing her. So, you know, I mentioned that probably very obvious point, because the people I'm about to introduce are really attempting the impossible. That's the task that Lisa set for us, which was to be merry and bright in the midst of our sadness. I'm sure that some of our individual remarks, and maybe the tribute as a whole, might strike some of you at some times as too merry, and others of you will find it not merry enough. So I ask for your understanding, not only for myself, but also for the other speakers who are going to come up today, because we're just doing our best to give Lisa the celebration she asked for in what is by nature a very difficult time. So thank you for your mercy and understanding. Now, to start us off on our tribute to a life well lived is Lisa's mom, her friend, her advocate, and her caregiver, Karen Easton.
Thank you so much for joining us today in the celebration of Lisa's life. She's even with me today. Many of you know she picked out my outfit. She thought it would look great with cowboy boots. But I thought that might be going a little too far for this, so I skipped those. During the last 7 months, my family and I were inspired by the love and support we received both from our extended family, second trip in 2 weeks for my cousins, and Lisa's many, many friends. The support was forever and so long, and it was incredible. Week after week, nourishing her just blew my mind at the number of friends, many of them I knew. You made her laugh when there was nothing to laugh about, took care of her personal needs, watched South Park and cartoons, brought them, she loved it, read books and shared stories. I am especially grateful to a few people that were there all the time, and I mean all the time at her bedside. And they were the Anderson girls, always to me the Anderson girls, Jennifer Guy and Katie Craig. Tom Parsons, Tom is also the one that did the photography of Lisa. Came twice a day. He brought the computer with South Park, which he always looked forward to. And Kylie Bean, who sat with her and read, and Kylie's been a friend of Lisa since I can remember. And they did pottery together and everything. And Jason Roberts, what can I say, the funniest person Lisa ever met, and definitely one of her favorites. So they were there all the time, supporting me when I was there, and calling and texting me and telling me what was happening when I wasn't. I can't even begin to tell you the support. On a personal level, there were a few people that supported me constantly through this. One is Diane Highbretter, by my side all the time, and helping me when I just couldn't get focused. Unbelievable. John Hardman, I should tell you, John lost his brother yesterday, so I'm very glad he could be here today. He watched me cry. And Bill Soba was with me at the end, and Bill is a chiropractor. We call him Dr. Bill, and Bill went with me week after week after week, and we massaged Lisa and took care of her, and were with her on the last day. And it was the only day Lisa didn't tell him to stop. Give me evil eye. Our love began for Lisa in February 12th, 1978. My father's birthday, Lisa's grandfather, birthday, when Chuck and I received spectacular news that we were going to be parents of a little girl. And the Krugers are here, and I got the news, and I called Chuck and the Krugers. Where are you? They were, there she is, right in back. They were there, and they were also later to adopt children. So I feel that they were there at the very beginning of the news. We were told she was the most beautiful baby they had ever placed. And I thought, well, that's nice, they tell everybody that. And they also told me that she had fringe all the way around her hair. Think about that. I pictured a monk. Really, I did. I could live with a monk. That's okay. But when we brought her home, it was Valentine's Day. You've probably seen the Valentine I made for her outfit. And that was when my mom and dad first saw her. And she was a beautiful gift and a beautiful girl. The first night, Chuck was still holding her at 4 a.m. If you know me, you'll love this story. And I went in and said, you can't keep doing this. She'll be spoiled forever. And he kept holding her. She was spoiled forever. And he always fell asleep before she did. Lisa didn't like to go to bed much before midnight if she could get away with it. We tried starting at 6 p.m. Never were successful. When her dad was ill, he wrote a beautiful letter to Lisa. Just a beautiful letter. In addition to his tremendous love for her, he pointed out her creativity, her clever and artistic ways, how her antics brought tears to his eyes. And David was usually in the skits dressed as a girl. And you've probably seen that picture out here. Luckily, David just got married. So don't worry about David. He watched Lisa and David's swing dance, marveled how two incredible children were brought together in our home. David ended up with back surgery after all the swing dancing. I know Lisa felt Chuck's guiding arm on her shoulder and influence throughout her life. He was intensely proud of her. When it was Lisa's turn to talk about her dad, she said as she watched her dad, she said, become an unconstructed brick by brick. Lose his freedoms one by one, she learned to never give up. After crying for her loss, she spoke about how she saw a bright light in the room, and it was just bathed in a golden essence. She knew it was a message from her dad meant to make her smile, how she loved her dad. My father and mother, Papa and Grandma to Lisa, were also a tremendous influence in her life. We were building a house and actually lived with them in very formative months of her life. They would drop everything to spend me every day with Lisa. I have many recordings of my dad singing songs, playing the guitar with Lisa. He couldn't carry a tune any more than I can, but she didn't know the difference. I'm so lucky to have those recordings today. Her favorite song was a prophecy of what was to be, who's going to kiss these red ruby lips, and who's going to glove my hand. My mother was become the most important person in Lisa's young life. And if you knew my mother, and Lisa, you knew this, she told everybody all the time. Lisa wrote, it's for the people from South Elementary, sure, Sarah Murphy might have been better than me on the monkey bars, and Ann White might have been better at cursive than me, but none of it mattered that day. That was my day. I skipped into South Elementary School that day, grinning from ear to ear. It was Grandparents' Day, and I knew without a doubt that my grandmother was the best in the world. She would let us play with her good jewelry. You wonder where this starts. She didn't care. She just liked watching us have fun, and we did. It was always Halloween with dress up and candy dishes all over the house. I have that gene myself. I cannot tell you the intensity of the love I felt for her. I'm a better person because of the things she taught me. She will live forever in my heart. I know Lisa will live forever in our hearts. She was bigger than life, and as Katie said, exploded into a room. Lisa, you fought a tough and painful battle and never gave up. And I think she learned how to do the end of her life by watching her father. Lisa, we're so proud of you. You're now in the loving hands of Papa and Grandma and your dad. And I hope that you all find great love in that, even though we won't be with you. How do you sum up a young lady's life in a few paragraphs? I want to do it by reading a few things Lisa wrote in her journal, always with a sense of humor. She had a long list of the people she loved, the things I'm grateful for, my car, and if you ever saw it, you would wonder why. There was not a quarter panel without dents. I'm not kidding. My clothes, most of them from Goodwill, jewelry that was grandma's, my home, my books, artwork, music, fashion, shoes, cool tights, color, education, tea, Christmas lights, sunshine, and laughter, having fun, having hugs and kisses, KFC mashed potatoes, whenever she was sick. Go give me some KFC mashed potatoes. Cotton candy. One of her dates actually climbed over the counter at the hockey game, I think, because they were closed and they wanted to go home without cotton candy. And luckily he didn't get arrested. The mountains, my dad's hands, overalls. You remember those overalls? Orangey, yellowy corduroy. Wore them all the time. Red nail polish, cover up. The women can explain to the men what cover up is and why it's so important. Plants, birds, roses, dogs, and second chances. Other things I'm very grateful for: wonder, love, understanding, forgiveness, senses, and God. I'm going to conclude by reading a few verses from a poem. It was 3 pages long. Just reading three or four paragraphs that she wrote in 1994 at age 17. And she was looking at my aunt's death at that time and wrote this. Nightfall cloaks the sky like a raven's wing. Shadows playing on the walls, dancing to a song unheard. I know you're gone, a moonshine overhead, the color of your golden hair, a shower of silence. Your pain is gone, a star falls. I see your spirit piercing the limbs of the night. I will always love you. So now I sleep into dawn as you sleep into eternity, for all the gentle winds and harsh storms of your life have come and gone. You will live forever in my mind. I too am a better person because of the things Lisa has brought into my life and the things she has taught me. No two people were probably more different. To see the world through creative eyes. There was humor in every situation. Wit is the sign of real intelligence. To find the fun in life, to be sometimes outrageous, to love art, and always, always accessorize. She will live forever, forever in my heart.
Next up, we have Lisa's brother, her dance partner, her fireworks lighter, her fish supplier, and apparently the officially designated person who would just randomly pick her up whenever a photo needed to be taken. David Easton.
Got her bling on.
You wear it well.
This is the wedding ring. The rest of us, this was. She had small fingers. So, here we are. Hi everyone, I'm Dave Easton. Nice to meet you. Probably not me as well as me. Can you guys hear me? No? Top volume? Okay. How about now? Yeah. Here are some of the things that have been said about and to my older sister in the last 7 months. Lisa, you have always had such a great gift for connecting with people, for opening them up to what's possible for them to find in themselves, which has helped them move closer to being the kinds of people that they want to be. You're also the absolute most resilient person I know. As I've told you countless times, I have no doubt that you will pull out of this latest challenge, as you have others in the past. As your same graceful, good-humored, and boundlessly clever self, you are like the phoenix who returned with increased strength of spirit after each time it turns to ash. I remember going to Katie's improv shows and how awesome you have been on stage. You're always so unsure of yourself, which is so strange because you live life like an ongoing improv. Very true. And you always seem to know what to say. You step on the stage looking like you just stepped out of a fashion page, wearing things in combinations I would never dream of, and making vintage seem like the very latest thing. Lisa, I want you to know that your smile and your kind thoughts have always been an inspiration to me. You're a woman who always lights up the room with your smile and your love. You are our third daughter, so we need your sparkling smile and atrocious wit. Instantly you became my friend, someone I admire, and someone who can always put a smile on my face and make me laugh. You've always been one of my favorite people on this planet. Your vibrant soul and witty brain constantly amaze and delight me. Your sense of fun and adventure inspire me. Your beauty moves me. Lisa was one of the most impressionable people I have ever met. I was so excited to be able to be part of her life, not only as a friend, but as a business partner. What a dear, sweet, funny treasure she was. Lisa, I have always admired your strength and that light you have, the way you brighten your room. Lisa's light shines so brightly, it always has. We all witnessed her spark, her beauty, her wit, her intelligence, her brilliant humor, and its effect in the world. Lisa captivated strangers, held friends close, and loved deeply. When she chose to shine her energy on you, it was a special gift. Sometimes the brightest lights burn out far too early. This is definitely true for Lisa. After all of these wonderful things that have been said about my sister, all of these things that I could only hope would someday be said about me, it makes me wonder why she had to go. Maybe that's just it. Maybe she had to go because she was all of these wonderful things. That's how I reconciled my dad's death. He wasn't for this world anymore. He had something figured out that he was destined to figure out, regardless of what his purpose was to us. He was needed somewhere else to pass on what he's learned. I think this is also why Lisa had to go. I'm not really sure if all of that spiritual stuff makes sense. It's probably one of the only ways I can find peace with death. Lisa was a classy, charming, hilarious, compassionate, vibrant, and extremely bright person. She was such a cool person. She had this energy about her that was confident, strong, and just super cool. To the point where people just wanted to be around her because they felt more cool and alive just being with her. Maybe she wasn't long for this world because she had it figured out. Because she was leading the pack. She was out there alone. She just wanted to grab everybody's hands and bring them with her. Can you imagine growing up with a sister like that? Such an amazing and at times intimidating presence for me. I, for instance, sorry, I'm losing my space here. So she's an intimidating presence for me to have in my life. I, for instance, being the stylish kid that I was younger, wanted to pull my pants up to my nipples on a daily basis and make my belt as tight as I could. I wanted to pull my socks up to my knees and slick my hair back with as much gel as possible. It wasn't long before Lisa took my personal privilege of dressing myself away from me. She was the one that taught me that tight rolling my pants was the coolest thing I could do. You know, I was around my age, you know, tight rolling is. It really wasn't that cool. Then a couple years later, she was the one who taught me that tight rolling my pants was the dorkiest thing I could do. Unacceptable. It's probably why I made it through junior high, you know. Lisa was my protector. It's like she had been through the growing pains before me, and she wanted me to get through them as seamlessly as possible. I was her protector too. I would have been over backwards for her, and a few times, like on a cruise, when we entered the swing dancing competition, she actually made it. Incidentally, we won that swing dance competition, which had little to do with my own dancing abilities. It was all her. She was an amazing dancer. As Lisa's younger brother, and I'm sure as her friends, she had the ability to persuade me into doing just about anything for her. I just wanted her acceptance. I wanted her to think I was her cool younger brother. As I look back at our relationship, I think she did accept me, and I was cool in her eyes. She took me to my first concert. She took me to Paris and the Platte to drink coffee with her super cool friends. And I always remembered to include me in her many fashion shows and skits performed for family and friends, because my mom had changed the dresses a few. As cool and as outgoing as Lisa seemed, she was actually a very shy person. When we used to go on vacation, we'd be bored, we'd be with each other or wherever we were, and she wouldn't want to, so we'd find people, but she wouldn't want to introduce herself. So she'd always make me go up and introduce myself. And yes, they were usually guys. They probably had no desire, you know, to hang out with me, but the second they saw Lisa, we were all fast friends. If there's one thing I want you all to remember about Lisa, whether she showed it or not, she cared for you. She had feelings for you and she cared for you. She cared so much that it was almost to a fault. These last 7 months have been so very hard for us as a family and as friends. It doesn't even scratch the surface of how hard this must have been for Lisa. I will never understand why she had to go through what she went through to then just die. It's very confusing, it's very tragic, and it's complicated. I'm not sure if we will ever know the true cause. I guess we're all going to have to find peace with that on our own at some point in time. Lisa loved Elizabeth, her wife. She was so excited to have a sister-in-law. She called on the phone, and she knew I was getting engaged, but she called on the phone with us for at least an hour the night that I proposed to Elizabeth. We were very excited to have such a talented person help us plan the perfect wedding. She didn't have the same hands-on approach we would have wanted her to have, but Lisa was definitely a part of the essence of our wedding. After the wedding, we came back to Denver and visited Lisa. We told her all the stories, we laughed and cried. We really had a wonderful moment with Lisa. The day before we left for our honeymoon, the day before, sorry. I had no idea that was going to be the last time I would see Lisa. But I think that's how she wanted it. We were in Switzerland when we found out Lisa's passing. It's probably the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. When receiving that kind of news, I highly recommend that you are staring out at glacial peaks towering above with cascading waterfalls everywhere you look. It definitely softens the blow, if anything can. As a family, we collectively made a decision that Elizabeth and I would finish out the last week of our honeymoon to enjoy ourselves and privately mourn the loss of Lisa. To understand the meaning of my next story, and to finish this up, you need to know that I often saw my sister as a butterfly, both in how she floated around from one event to another, lighting up the room she walked into, and how she came out of her cocoon in both her professional and personal identity in the last few years. Exactly one day after Lisa's passing, Elizabeth and I are leaving this location in Switzerland that is by far the most beautiful place we've ever been, to head to England, which is also an extremely gorgeous place. There's absolutely no reason we needed to go to Engelberg. You know, I've been there and it didn't hold a candle to where we had just been. We actually almost scratched it, but for some reason we didn't. Elizabeth, being the great navigator that she is, decided to take us on what turned out to be a beautiful shortcut. As we drove down the road, just beyond one of the many small towns, I saw this. It definitely said something to me. I'm not sure what the meaning behind something like this is, but I can tell you it's definitely not just a coincidence. We're in Switzerland. It's a German-speaking, French-speaking country. I don't know if they use the name Lisa. I'd like to think that this Swiss family just had a baby named Lisa. Lisa, you will always be my big sis. I will always love you, and I will never forget you. And I look forward to the time when we can meet again. Thank you.
Somebody was a day late and $1 short on the Kleenex, so you know, I'll stash this here. Also very thankful that Lisa introduced me to weapons grade mascara. Next we have Uncle John. Who, along with his wife Sylvia, did that come up right? Okay. Along with his wife Sylvia, his daughters Jennifer and Jamie, were some of Lisa's biggest fans and most stalwart supporters.
But after listening to Karen and Christina, I'm glad she brought this up. And that picture was taken a couple years ago. Well, I am Karen's cousin, although actually I've always felt more like a brother. And as a result, this is tough. I didn't think it'd be this tough, actually, because I've had to do this before. But, we've always thought of David and Lisa as our niece and nephew. And they were raised with sort of our kids, too, David. And it seems ironic today that I'm standing here, only a month after David and Elizabeth's wedding, to give another speech. But when I think back on the wedding period, my daughters, their children, were able to see Lisa, and she saw the kids. And she responded to the kids. She said, my granddaughter Sophia was cute, and she said my grandson David was handsome. And I really felt that was Lisa reaching out, even though the condition she was in, she was trying, struggling, and she succeeded. But to get back more to the comments that have been made, we know about her fashion style. And as I told my cousin, the word fashionista was invented before Lisa. You may not have agreed with her fashion, but she knew exactly what she wanted to do, and she did it. A few years back, we were in Las Vegas. It was my younger daughter's, my youngest daughter, birthday. And we went to a pretty expensive restaurant. And they were all getting ready, and Lisa probably brought 300 or 400 pounds of clothing to wear. And finally, she gets what she wants. We walk into the restaurant. And remind you, in this restaurant, Tony Curtis and his new wife are sitting there. And Lisa comes in wearing nothing more than a simple black dress, black and white. And I swear, the restaurant stopped. It did. It looked at her, and of course you could hear, who's that, who's that, who's that? And she just had that way of walking in and taking over a room. I don't really think I've seen anyone before or since do that. I think that the quote from the Little Prince in the brochure is extremely accurate, because what Lisa was a shooting star. She came across the universe. She lit up everything she walked, every room she walked into, everybody she met. And we're not going to forget her ever. We're going to be reminded of her for the rest of her life. And you're going to look up and you're going to see a shooting star, and that will be Lisa. I don't want to make a lot of comments, because frankly I'm having a harder time than I thought getting through it. But I'm not a fan of cliches. We hear cliches all the time. But the reason we hear cliches is they carry a lot of truth in them. And in Lisa's case, that the song that Frank Sinatra had, well, Lisa did it her way. And she is going to continue doing it her way, because she's here with us right now. She's with her dad, her grandma, her grandpa, and we soon will be joining her too. She's a beautiful person. She brought a lot of life into this world, and she is going to be missed.
Mary Beth has the dubious distinction of being my mother. Thankfully for her, she's also Jennifer's, as well as being Lisa's second mother and perhaps her very first artistic ally. Mary Beth Anderson.
I thought I'd make you really nervous. I did have to enlarge the print, so it's not as long as it seems. I'm taking comments today from a book called Exuberance, and surprisingly, Lisa did not write this book. I think she would have eventually. It's called Exuberance, The Passion for Life by Kay Redfield Jameson. And going along with Lisa's quirky sense of humor, I'm comparing her with Snoopy. And when I told Jenny that I was going to compare her with Snoopy, Jenny goes, ah. With that resounding vote of confidence, I will continue. The little Jeopardy fact is Snoopy was born on October 1950 at the Daisy Hill Puppy Farm. And that makes him 61, by the way. That's pretty scary. Please, as I read this, substitute Lisa's name, because when I read it, all I could think of was Lisa, so that's the whole point of this thing. But we'll get started. Snoopy is a seriously exuberant animal. He is also independent, quirky, debonair, keenly intelligent, mischievous, and an incurable romantic. Life for Snoopy is just such a fantasy, says Judy Slatke, a 5-time U.S. Ice National Skating Champion, and the person Charles Schultz chose to portray Snoopy off the ice as well as on. If reality isn't what he likes, she likes, he changes it around to suit him. He thinks of things and does them. When Slatke puts on her 40-pound Snoopy costume and assumes his personality, she says, Snoopy just takes over. I have done things I have never done before. Backflips, for example. He wears me out. He exhausts me. He can do anything. Now, if that's not Lisa. Snoopy has an extraordinary capacity for celebration. He leaps for joy. He dances with delight. For those of us with any real understanding, he says dancing is the only pure art form. In the television classic, It's the Easter Beagle, Charlie Brown, Snoopy, who has become separated from his friends in a department store, comes upon a stack of brightly colored eggs. He picks up an elaborately decorated one, and with one eye closed, peers into the opening at the end. I did this before. See the jar got closed? I can't do it. He picks up an elaborately decorated one with one eye closed, peers into the opening at the end. Inside the egg is a diorama of bunnies in a colorless landscape. Suddenly, the dull landscape changes to vibrant greens and daisies and colored Easter eggs. The bunnies link paws and break into a Matisse-like dance. Snoopy leaps into the diorama of the world within the egg and joins the bunnies in their dance. Ears sailing, that reminds me of Lisa. They all twirl together for a while, and then Snoopy breaks into a wildly exuberant solo, ears extended and flying out from his head. He pirouettes and kicks out his feet in a Russian folk dance. It is a moment of complete magic, one that draws the viewer into a private world of unrestrained rejoicing. Snoopy's glee, Lisa's glee, as she dances, is infectious. It is impossible to look at his outstretched arms, twirling ears and spinning feet, and not feel delight in his energy and pleasure. Snoopy has the freedom to express uncontrolled joy. Observes Jeannie Schultz, the cartoonist's widow. Snoopy doesn't have to have any controls. He lives in a doghouse seen only by side view. I'll speed this part up because it's a list that contains a pool table, a television set, stained glass windows, carpeting, a cedar closet, and a potted philodendron, paintings by Van Gogh and Andrew Wyatt, and a picture of Tiny Tim. And if you have to ask who Tiny Tim is, you are way too young. Grows his canoe in the bird bath, occasionally into coastal fog, and sleds down snow slopes in his food bowl. He poofs dandelions. He dines by candlelight on top of his doghouse and sleeps there with the moon as his nightlight. He loves eggs Benedict, donuts, chocolate chip cookies, root beer, and silver dollar pancakes. He blows bubbles and skates better than Peggy Fleming. He served not just honorably in World War I, but as a flying ace with camera, taking on the Red Baron from the top of his doghouse. Now you know, with all of these things, Snoopy had costumes for him. Costumes are a good thing to have. He is an astronaut who goes to the moon, a yet-to-be-published novelist, a sometimes truffle hunter. He is everything his imagination can create, an antler and a partridge in a pear tree, a Scott Fitzgerald hero, a piranha, Huck Beagle Finn, Mickey Mouse, a fierce snow snake, a riverboat gambler, Dr. Beagle and Mr. Hyde, and authority on dragonflies. He gives kisses sweeter than wine and travels to the Sahara and France. He is a devotee of the absurd, but he is unjaded. He believes that as long as you can see the moon, you can never be lost in the woods. You will be facing west, he explains. The moon is always over Hollywood. Snoopy's bliss comes not just from dance. He revels in recreating himself, delights in the absurd, and takes endless pleasure in playing with ideas and seeing where they go. He is well-read, although not as much as he might have been for his tendency to move his lips when he reads. He is enchanted by the esoteric. Dragonflies sold your lips so you can't eat and you starve to death, Snoopy tells Woodstock at one point. If you chew wintergreen candy in the dark, it makes sparks, he exclaims elsewhere. He exchanges philosophical musings with a fruit fly who has a lifespan of 24 hours and learns that the fly has only one regret. I wish I knew at 9 o'clock what I know now. I wonder why Snoopy is willing most of the time to lie on top of that doghouse, Schultz asked once. Why doesn't he roll off? I remember a veterinarian telling me once that when birds fall asleep, sitting on a limb of a tree, their brain sent a message down to their claws, telling the claws to stay clamped on the limb so the bird doesn't fall off on his head. So I justify by saying this, Schultz says, that perhaps it's the same with Snoopy's ears. I think when he falls asleep, his ears clamp on top of the doghouse. On July 23rd, Lisa's ears got tired, and they let go, thus releasing her from the suffering and indignities of the past 8 months, and subsequently breaking our hearts by taking a hole in our bucket of hope. And while the future without her looks bleak and drab, we will definitely have to remember her faceted personality and uniqueness, her stories, her beauty, her many personas, and the wonderful quirkiness of her dress and humor. It also must be noted that Lisa not only owned and wore these shoes, but she could dance in them. We must always remember that our dear Lisa was one seriously exuberant animal, and her being so made our lives so much richer. We love you, dear.
Kylie and Lisa became fast friends from the moment that they met in the office of Douglas County High School. From then on, their shared interests and the tremendous amount of fun that they just had every single time they got together kept them close throughout the years.
Thank you, Katie. This is beautiful. I really, I don't know where to start. Which I've been doing for 3 weeks now, just holding it in. I can do this. As Katie mentioned, Lisa and I met in high school, and I transferred to Douglas County High School from Moffat County, and it was my very first day of school. And I was so nervous. I'm not like Lisa in the she's so confident and outgoing and brave, and I'm a little insecure and didn't just say hi to anybody. And so we saw each other in the office, and it was kind of like this moment, like we made eye contact, and I felt like I already knew her. Like we had, like maybe, like I didn't have any definition for what it was. It just was this like instant. She was already my best friend. I didn't even know her name, but she was already my best friend. And so I signed up for my classes, and I wanted to take the speech and debate class. It was a priority. I had done that in my last school, and so they directed me to the speech and debate class, and I went up there, and there was Lisa. And she's like, "Oh, hi, I really wanted to meet you." And we just sat there for the rest of that class period and talked and got to know each other, and it just was like instantly, and it like set this standard for friendship for me. Like, I have not to this day met another instant best friend. I don't really have very many friends, because if you're not like already my friend, like it's really precious. Like, she so touched my life on such a deep, deep level. I really, really want to thank Karen and Katie and all of her really close friends and family that, like, throughout this whole process, like, you guys have all really reflected to me how much Lisa, like, how much I meant to Lisa. Like, just by the way that you treat me and you include me in all of these things, like, just, allowing me to speak, like, that's a reflection of her character and, like, the kind of person she was. Like, I feel like she's definitely a muse too. When I was thinking about that this morning, that like Lisa was my muse, I figured that like I would be like the 8th person to get up here and say that, because she just like, I met her and she took me to my first pottery class, and we really enjoyed that, the passion of pottery together, and that's what I do now, is I work at a pottery studio. And had it not been for Lisa touching my life, I wouldn't have found my own mission. And it's now like my responsibility to every piece of art I make is now for both of us, because I know Lisa's an artist, and with her present circumstances, I'm gonna have to finish all of it. Like, and that's okay. It's my benefit. Like, I'm so fortunate to be in the situation that I am, and Karen knows how our lives were so interconnected. I don't want to make anybody cry. I was really trying to stay on the positive, but like in November of 1999, Lisa and I were out partying, and I took her car and I hit a tree and I got a brain injury, and so that put me in this like spiral that gave me the opportunity to become an artist. So she's my muse, right? And then in November of 2010, Lisa had this stroke and ended up with a brain injury. So it's like the same month. And, you know, like I'm like going through this, okay, you know, there's no coincidences in life. Like everything happens for a reason, and I don't understand this is dark. I'm thinking, you know, David, there is no words for why such a beautiful person would be taken so soon. You know, I always look forward to, like, every time Lisa and I would celebrate, and, like, she'd go to college, or I'd move away with the Renaissance Festival. Like, as soon as we came back together, like, we were already best friends again. Like, we didn't even have to use words to catch up. Like, and I assume she was probably like that with all of you. That was just her nature. Like, she was just so free and open, and, like, I don't know, like, not just, like, of course, Lisa was gifted with, like, do you see how beautiful she was on homecoming? It was fun, wasn't it, Robin? But, like, not just on the outside. Like, some people are just blessed with, like, exterior beauty. Lisa was beautiful, like, every ounce of her being. Like, I just don't know, it's... Thank you, guys, for letting me share. Do you mind if I close with a quote from it's a book, Unlocking the Mysteries of Birth and Death. It kind of speaks to the eternity of life. In a way, explains why maybe Lisa and I were already friends when we met. Like, and I believe we'll meet again. Like, she's, you know, in this world or the next, or what, you know, whatever vocabulary you want to put with it. Like, Lisa's with me every day for the rest of my life, and my memory, and my pottery, and it's endless, the coincidences. Buddhism is a philosophy of life that states the universe is life itself, and that life, together with the universe, is eternal and everlasting. Just as we sleep and wake, and then sleep again, we live and die, and then live again, maintaining our lives eternally. If we awaken, or if we liken the universe to the ocean, our lives are like the waves that appear and disappear on the surface of that ocean. The waves in the ocean are not separate entities. In other words, the waves are but part of the ocean's ongoing activity. Thank you.
I imagine most of you know our next speaker. Jason and Lisa met 15 years ago, and he instantly became one of the very closest friends she would ever have.
Thank you all for being here today. I thought I'd tell you a few stories about Lisa and I. When we first met, we were introduced by a friend. Lisa was working at Park Meadows Mall with a couple of other buddies of mine. And we decided to all go out to a club and meet. And so I met her, and later that night I'm like, so what's up with that girl? She's really cute, I really like her. He's like, oh, I don't really think she's interested in you. I'm like, really? Damn. Come to find out that she had asked him about me, but he was interested in her as well, so he was trying to move me right out of there. So, fortunately, I was able to sidestep that. Lisa and I ended up meeting again at another club, I think a couple of weeks later. And I recall we were on the dance floor dancing, and, you know, we were having a good time, and we were still at the point where, you know, we were kind of testing each other out, and she was just kind of trying to peacock a little bit around the place that she does. So we're dancing, and all of a sudden she just turns her back to me and starts dancing with another guy. So I'm sitting there like, okay, you know, trying to, just continues to dance with this other dude. And I'm like, all right, I feel really stupid. Dance floor. So I decided to leave the dance floor, and there was a little bit of an elevated spot that it could overlook it. So I leave the dance floor. Lisa's still out there dancing with this other guy and Lisa's friend. So she's dancing and having a good time. She kind of looks back over her shoulder, stops dancing, grabs her friend, like, walks right off the dance floor. Like, oh, I guess he's not watching anymore. said, well, you know, I'm leaving. Do you want to get out of here? You want to go back to your place? Or whatever? She's like, oh, well, I got to go see my friend and do this. And so I'm wandering around the club with her, you know, trying to like, look, I'm going to go. She's like, all right, let's go. So we go back to her place, and she had this little apartment. And she's like, you ever seen Wallace and Gromit? No idea what that even is. Apparently it's a cartoon, so we spent the better part of the evening watching Wallace and Gromit cartoons. I stayed the night that night. We fell asleep together in her bed, didn't even kiss or anything. She woke up the next morning, we were still holding each other, and she told me later, she's like, that's when I fell in love with you. And, you know, I fell in love with her every time I saw her. Another funny story. After we started dating, she had me over for dinner one night. And I was like, great, okay, you know, I'm gonna get a dinner cooked for me, fantastic. So I came over to her apartment, and she had a little card table set up, and she had a couple of mismatched plates, and some mismatched silver, a little vase with a flower sticking out of it on the table. And I said, oh, this is beautiful, honey. This is great. She's like, well, sit down. I said, okay, I'll sit down. She's like, would you like some wine? I'm like, great, absolutely, I'd love some wine. At this time, I was working at Del Frisco's, and so I was like, oh, great, wine, you know, this will be fantastic. She's like, well, it's in the freezer. Go ahead and get it. All right. So I opened the freezer, there's a box of Franzia. I said, honey, I don't think it's supposed to be in the freezer. She's like, really? I just want to make sure it was cold. I'm like, oh, it's cold. I'm like, well, what? Do you have something I can tear the top of the box off and ship this out? Which is exactly what I did. I'm like, do you have any wine? Let's know I have these goblets. Like steel goblets. So I'm chipping out this Franzia, making these white zin slushies. And I said, so what are we having for dinner? She said, we're having steak. Once again, we're at Del Frisco's, fantastic. Steak, great. We're in the kitchen. This didn't have a grill. Nor was the oven on. There were 2 pots on the stove, though. There was something boiling in it. Okay. What kind of steak are we having? Kind of a filet guy? Oh no, we're having cube steak. How are you preparing it? Well, I'm boiling it, of course. Fantastic, can I see it? Poke my head in the pot. Honey, I don't think it's supposed to be gray. It's alright, we'll just serve it up anyway. So I serve it, I'm like, anything else we're having? I'm like, what's that smell? Is that something burning? She's like, oh, the beans. Lisa didn't realize you had to stir the beans. So we had Franzia slushies, grey cube steak, and burnt beans for our first meal. She's like, how is it? I'm like, it's great. It's a beautiful cup. I had a birthday party at my house one year. I had a lot of parties at my house. My mother could tell you all about that. Lisa, I was downstairs, and Lisa appeared top of my stairs. This is kind of a short, like 7-8 foot staircase. She appeared at the top of my stairs looking very much like Marilyn Monroe. And she started to sing, happy birthday to you. And she starts descending the stairs, happy birthday to, whoa! Falls down the stairs into my waiting arms. Lisa wasn't the most graceful of people, so, baby, it's perfect. Thank you. Later that night, I was so drunk, I had passed out in my own bedroom, and I was wearing nothing more than my boxers, and I think some necklace that she had thrown on me. So the party was still going. She's like, honey, she comes wake me up. She's like, don't you want to say goodbye to your guests? I'm in a stupor. I'm like, sure. So she gets me up, doesn't bother to get me dressed. Takes me out. Say goodbye to everybody. Goodbye, everybody. Oh, wait, there's more people downstairs. Come on, come on. Say goodbye. So, later that week, I said, my God, baby, I can't believe you did that. She's like, oh, she's like, you know what this is? It's the smallest violin playing just for you. Oh, and you know what this is? This is the smallest beatbox coming to mix a little beat for you. Lisa had a great sense of humor. She brought so much incredible joy to my life. And I never met anybody who was so fearless about expressing herself and being who she was. And I've never met anybody like her. And if there's anything that I take with me from her, it is that I want to be fearless in how I express myself and how I live my life. And I think all of you know what I'm talking about, how she touched your lives and how she made you feel. To be able to affect the world in that way, to be able to give people that kind of joy and that kind of courage to live their lives in that way is truly an amazing gift, and she gave that to me, and I think to all of us as well. So, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Now, if it were possible for my big sister to love anyone in the world more than me, that person may have been Lisa. So I'm bringing you Lisa's second sister, or maybe she's Lisa's first and I'm the second. We'll have to arm wrestle about that later. Jennifer Guy.
I tried to stay within limits. I was not altogether successful. Katie said, try to aim for 7 minutes, and I heard Lisa say, that's a suggestion that's meant to be broken. I don't want you to be too much over, but I've been thinking a lot lately about what it means not to remember meeting someone. To have someone in your life you can't recall having a first impression with, that you never had false assumptions you had to overcome. I imagine if I'd met Lisa later in life, I may have been taken in by her beauty. I may have assumed because she was so gorgeous and had such a razor-sharp wit that she was just going to be another stereotypical mean girl. I cannot imagine that I would have known her very long before I noticed her kindness, compassion, creativity, and sense of humor. And I can't imagine it would have been much beyond that all of those traits would have overtaken my first impressions of her. As it was, I was 3 years and 3 months old when I met Lisa. We grew up together. She was always just Lisa. In fact, when I see pictures like Tom's wonderful work, I look at it and I think, my God, she was beautiful, wasn't she? And it's not that I didn't see that. It's not that I didn't, every time I was with her, notice how beautiful she was and how well put together. It's just, it was so overshadowed by her personality and the sense of fun and adventure that she embodied. It also may have something to do with the fact that a lot of the time when I was hanging out with Lisa, glamour and beauty were not nearly as important to her as making people laugh and having heartfelt experiences. Katie and I went on several different camping trips with our dads. Now, we were not exactly the outdoors women that my dad and Chuck would have preferred, but I will say that Lisa thought camouflage had some definite possibilities. I remember one evening, at least one evening, maybe I'm melding all these experiences together in my mind, where Lisa spent the entire evening throwing herself against a rock, against the ground, against a tree, and yelling, "You can't see me, can you?" Before she collapsed on the ground, convulsing with laughter. Because who's ever seen anyone laugh like Lisa? It's not a facial thing, it's not a gut thing, it's a body thing. On another camping trip, Katie, Lisa, and I were hanging out in the tent, and somehow, over our laughter, we heard a sound outside the tent. And Katie very quickly, being the improv star that she is, said, "It's a psychopath." I said, with the kind of world weariness that you can only affect in your late teenage years and then quickly lose, "It's Chuck." Lisa, without missing a beat, said, "Stop, you're both right." recordings of all those times we spent together. If for no other reason, then it is the best ab workout ever to hang out with Lisa and laugh with your whole body. One of the greatest experiences I had with Lisa was at Camp Hope. There are several slides in the slideshow of Camp Hope. They're the ones where everyone's accessorizing with tree name tags. It's very fashionable. Camp Hope is a camp for people with physical and mental disabilities. I worked up there for 2 summers, and Lisa went up with me for a couple weeks. It really was the first time that Lisa and I hung out as just Lisa and I, not Lisa, Katie, and I, or Lisa, David, Katie, and I, and our families. It was just Lisa and I, and so we got to know each other on a different level. She was amazing up there. Sometimes when people are faced with people with severe mental and physical disabilities, they grow uncomfortable. They don't know what to say, they don't know what to do. They maybe speak down to people because they're not sure how to deal with that. And Lisa had no such issues. Every person at Camp Hope she talked to as if they were her best friend. And she gave every person respect and dignity. There were some of the weeks when we had foster kids up there, kids who had dealt with a lot of abuse and neglect issues. And the week that Lisa was there and these kids who were in foster care were up there, if you wanted to find Lisa, you had to look for the trail of kids, because that's where Lisa was. And she always had a kid on her lap, was hugging a kid, was with the kids. I'm so glad I got to spend that time with her up there. It was such a special time, and I know it meant a lot to her. Through the years, she would always tell Karen and me how much Camp Hope meant to her. In fact, when we were moving Lisa out of her apartment, in the chest that Chuck built was her letter of recommendation from Camp Hope. And if you know Lisa, she kind of sloughs items off as she moves through life, and she still had this letter from Camp Hope saved away in her chest. When I got engaged, I was excited to tell my parents and Katie, and I was excited to tell the Eastons. I knew that I wanted Lisa to be a bridesmaid, and I wanted David to be an usher. They'd always felt like siblings to us, and I couldn't imagine not having them at our wedding. The day of the wedding, I have many memories of hanging out with her in Karen's bathroom, getting ready and laughing. David might have been there too. I remember standing in front of the church and turning back and looking at Lisa, and she had tears streaming down her face. And I looked away, because I knew I was going to lose it if I looked at her. And apparently I should have kept looking at her, because there she was standing, makeup perfect, hair perfect, looking gorgeous through the tears, of course. And she was using tissue after tissue after tissue. Now, when I chose the dresses, I didn't actually choose dresses that had very good stashing options for used tissues. So she couldn't really stash the tissues anywhere. I'm sure she looked at her bouquet and said, maybe. But she decided not to go with that. Instead, used tissue after used tissue got thrown over the back of the pew at Karen. And Karen got to be her personal cleanup crew. I too do not have good stashing options, so if I lose it later, I'll just throw it that way. As we went through different life experiences, there would be times when I didn't see Lisa for a very long time. But when we reconnected, it was like no time had passed. I will miss going to parties and knowing that Lisa had arrived, because she would come straight for me, bodily moving my 6'3" husband out of the way, saying, "She's mine, you get to see her all the time." Now, granted, knowing Lisa, I'm not really sure if the ability to move my husband out of the way was because of her extreme love for me, or if she just tripped at the last moment and that gave her the extra strength to move him. After that first attack of the evening, it would always be followed by several mini attacks. Throughout the evening, I'd be talking to someone, all of a sudden I'd have Lisa attached to my arm. And a lot of the time, she wouldn't say a word. She would just squeeze my arm, hug me, and then flit off and go and talk to other people. But it was just that knowing that she was there and that she was going to come back. And I would see her all through the evening and have that physical contact with her. I will miss her texts. She would just randomly text me, "I love you, Schnook and Puff," or "I love you, my Jenny." And without fail, most of the times when I got those texts, it was exactly when I needed the most encouragement. On the morning, I always broke down here when I practiced too. On the morning of December 21st, Lisa and I were supposed to go out for coffee. We had not decided for sure if I was going to pick her up at her apartment or if we were going to meet at the coffee shop. And so I sent her a text the night before and that morning, and I was disappointed when I didn't hear back from her. But I thought right away, she's going to have such a great story about whatever adventure she got involved in that kept her from meeting with me, because I knew it had to be a supreme adventure for her not to follow through. Of course, when she woke up from that initial coma, I did tell her I was not nearly as pleased with this story as the stories I had imagined in between. I am thankful that she was strong enough to hold on for as long as she did. I'm glad that I got to tell her again and again what she means to me. I'm glad we got to share stories. I'm glad that in those months, I got to spend hours just sitting at her bedside and holding her hand, just being with her. I'm glad that our last words to each other were that we loved each other. And I'm glad that my very last action was to kiss her head before I left the room. I'm very glad that she was able to bring all of her friends and family so close together. We had all known each other through the years, seen each other through the years, but she was able to knit us all closer together so that we could be a net for each other after she couldn't be there for us anymore. In the past 2 months, I've seen dragonflies all over the place. If you are the logical, mathematical type like my father, you will theorize that it is due to the wet weather we have been having. Let me warn you, if you say this, you will be shouted down by my mother and I will say, no, it is Lisa. Of the many times that I have seen them, there are 3 times that stand out. Katie and I were driving down I-25 on our way back from planning this service. Should have been going way too fast to see a dragonfly, but there was an accident, and so took about half an hour to go half a mile, and a dragonfly came out and flew over the car several times. I saw another as I walked out of the Goodwill store where I bought this dress for $4.99. By the way, Lisa would love the fact that I found a bright and cheery dress for $4.99, and that I shared that fact with you not once, but twice. As I walked out of that Goodwill, a dragonfly flew straight in front of my face. On Wednesday, I was headed out to print the programs, and as I walked out towards my car, 2 dragonflies chased each other across the street in front of my house. The day after we lost Lisa, Katie and I were going through her jewelry, and I found 2 identical dragonfly pendants in her jewelry. After all these sightings, of course, I started to look into what the symbolism of dragonflies were. And of course, I had heard that some people grew up with a fear that dragonflies are going to sew your mouth shut. But they actually are a reminder to speak your own truth, to speak from your heart, and to speak from who you are. They also indicate change and a removal of obstacles that stand in the way of change. They also indicate deep thoughts rising up to the surface. Dragonflies kind of live in that realm between air and water and can skim across the surface. So the deep thoughts coming up to the surface. Most poignantly for me, they symbolize living life to the fullest and making the most of every moment. You see, dragonflies spend a very small part of their life cycle being able to fly. I am certain that Lisa would like to physically be here with us. She would like to celebrate all of the good things that are going to come in our life in the years to come. She would like us to be there to celebrate all the good things that would have come in her life. At the same time, I can't imagine that Lisa has any regrets. I can't imagine that she would change anything. She lived her life fully, and she positively soared during that short amount of time she had to fly. May all of us here and all of those out in the world who have been touched by her do the same in her honor.
If you haven't met our next speaker, you've doubtless seen her occasional shoots, the ones that you see the photos from today, costume parties, or random nights out, Ami and Lisa were inseparable for the better part of the decade.
I'm up here and I'm doing everything I can, but to start with, Lisa loved everybody so much that I'm just a fraction of them. And I'm just grateful that I can share that moment and that part that I was with her, that she loved everybody. My darling, my love, my other half. For many years, you are my other half. In you I delight. You are a divine mingle of guts and stardust. Stolen words, but I could not say it better. You will always be an inspiration to me with your generous heart and your immense capacity to love. You affected everyone you touched. In your presence, I felt like a treasure. Thank you for seeing me. Your clever wit and sense of humor remain unparalleled in my life. Glittering and sparkling, your laughter contagious, commanded attention and entertained with delight. I admire your lack of fear, as you dove headfirst into life, of course, always with best shoes on. You lived, experiencing, tasting, conquering, and sometimes getting knocked down, but it never stopped you. You were a fighter. A strength resided in you most of us only dream about. When the world threw you curveballs, somehow you always ended up on top. You might have got there kicking and scratching, but you got there, looking glamorous to boot. I have always adored and cherished your unique style, your creative flair and ability to make the most unusual item stunning. Wildly outrageous and playful, an extension of your soul, rich and deeply exposed. The unexpected was the norm. I will miss sharing in the eccentric expression itself, designing and creating our masterpieces, spending countless hours getting dressed up, if only to make a mere appearance. I admired you for your ability to dare it and push the boundaries of the moment. You taught me how to walk with confidence. I still remember what you'd say to me, wear it like you believe it, and so will they. I still live by this. You will not hesitate to tell someone that they were beautiful. Always wanting those around you to shine in their full potential. You would not hesitate. Never was there a more fiercely protective friend than you, making mincemeat of any who dared approach uninvited. Your wit could leave burn marks on those that dared cross you. Many a hoping suitor was driven away yelping from your sting. I will forever cherish the looks of sheer shock as they encountered you. You've been there for me in ways only a true friend could be. I'll never forget the time that we went dancing and I managed to slip mid-step, landing in a not-so-graceful heap upon my back and feet up, skirt and clothes everywhere. Without missing a beat, you landed on top of me. Tangled on the dirty floor, we laughed till we cried. I loved you for not letting me fall alone. As a wise man once said, there must be chaos within oneself in order to give birth to a dancing star. For all the brilliance and glimmering, there was also pain, countless heartbreaks and numerous tears. It was in these shaky, broken moments that I cherished you the most, knowing what it meant to feel too much and too deeply. Words are not needed. Comfort was found in knowing embrace, an allowance for silence, tears, and the knowledge that in the end we had each other. For all our kindred spirit intimacy, we also had a very tumultuous relationship. The more we loved, the more the sparks could fly. Your intense love was matched by unparalleled fierceness. You knew well how to throw all the years of dirt at me in one sitting, and I fought back just as hard. just as stubborn. I'm sorry. Through our struggles, though, I learned the beauty of forgiveness, understanding, independence, and how important it was to just shut up and hold you. I am who I am today for the many years we shared hand in hand, for all the tears, trials, and ridiculous moments. Some I can't share, some I won't. I'm getting too numbered to share. You were and are a giant part of my life and heart. I'm grateful for the years we shared and regret those we didn't. Rare among many, I love you immensely. I delight in you and celebrate you, for in these memories you are and continue. As you taught me, there's always time for striped socks and sequins hats. If it doesn't work one way, find another. Don't forget the red lipstick. Attitude is everything. Dirty feet is always acceptable, and there's always time for tea. As I said to you before, I can say again, there are no goodbyes for us. Wherever you are, you will always be in my heart.
Tom Parsons is one of the people who seem to most quickly see through or behind Lisa's gorgeous exterior and combined with the creative genius within. Together they collaborated not only on the wonderful pieces that you see here today, but on many others, including apparently one in a tutu that Tom was wearing and he has apparently sabotaged. Tom Parsons.
I'm such a lucky person to have had Lisa in my life, and we knew each other about 7 or 8 years, and great stories about running into each other, and we were kind of inseparable after that artistically. We just really bonded and kind of had a lot of the same vision, and so everything just kind of clicked. So Lisa and I spent a lot of time together designing things and collaborating. As I talked about, we got this earlier, and that's one of the great things she taught me as an artist was how to collaborate. Because before that, I'd always, I'm going to do everything, every little piece of this photo shoot, whatever. And Lisa was the first person I worked with where, we'd fuse ideas together, and we wouldn't know until the very end, but we knew something really special was going to come out of the work. And so we spent a lot of time drawing and sketching and talking on the phone about different ideas, and we were often in different states and different countries often. But so I'll tell this one story. So we had this place that whenever I called her up and I would be like, Lisa, I have this great idea, and gotta do this, and do you understand what I'm saying? And the only way Lisa could do it, she would say, Tom, just stop. And she'd, all right, I'll meet you in 45 minutes at the place. So we always told her never divulge what the place was. And so we spent many, many hours at Union Station was where we hung out. And we always liked it because of the way the noise was. And certainly Lisa laughing at Union Station was one of the great laughs you can imagine. But anyway, so we'd sit down and she'd say, she'd start sketching something and I'd do something, and we'd just start our collaborative thing. And sometimes there were people in Union Station, and sometimes it was just empty or it was really late at night. So those moments were just, awesome. And I'm really lucky because I have a journal full of things we haven't done yet. So I've got plenty of work to do in the future that will have Lisa's, all of her inputs and humor and everything in it. So, but the best part of the Union Station story is we'd always leave through the side door, and Lisa, you have to picture Lisa, the way she animated her face and everything, and right when we got to the side door, we wound both of them, but I don't say Lisa, the one doing it, but she'd stretch her face up in the lowest voice she could. She'd say, all aboard! And we'd run to Wine Coop Street, we'd sit down, and if there were people in there, they started boarding the train. There weren't, but we always did it. She loved it. And then we'd laugh. And, she was the only person I've ever met that could laugh with her entire body. And, I'm just lucky that I've got so many great memories, visual memories from working with her. and got to meet all of her great friends and family. And love you to death, Lisa. And thanks, guys.
So I've known Lisa for a while, and from the very beginning, let's see if this works for me. Can I just nod at you? Good looking man in the front row. From the very beginning, she was the fashionable, expressive, kooky, clever, witty lightning bolt that everyone else has been talking about. She was my closest friend for an entire lifetime, and I had no clue how to talk about her today, how to sum this up. So I did what I think a lot of us have done when we're directionless and we don't know what to do. I looked to Lisa as an example. And when she eulogized Chuck about 11 years ago, she closed her very moving remarks with some lessons that she had learned from him. My favorite being that there is only one way to load a dishwasher, which is true. So in the spirit of Lisa, I have likewise compiled a list of things that I have learned from her. The first being there are few moods so foul that fabulous lipstick cannot help. Red, to be exact. The next being laughing so hard you can't breathe is one of the very greatest joys in life. Also, that you should never assume that you have seen everything. And this one needs a bit of an explanation. Lisa and I used to live next door to each other in a really old apartment complex where they had this thing called a milk door, which I had never encountered before. But it's a tiny, tiny little box that the milkman in the olden days, when our parents were young, used to open, apparently a glass bottle of milk in, close, and then you could open it from the opposite side and get your milk out through your apartment. So Lisa and I, as she was coming home from Gunther Toody's, were talking in the hallway, and she's digging through this gargantuan purse of hers, and she's throwing out lipsticks and shoes and everything else you can possibly imagine, and she says, locked myself out again. Time to crawl through the milk door. And I have to admit, I said, there's no way that you can flip through the milk door. She goes, oh, I do it all the time. And I said, stay there and give me my camera. And you're welcome, because I now have photo documentation of this process. So to be clear, let's go ahead and get one more slide. Yes, I have a laser pointer. This is her. This is the milk door. Her milk door. She clearly broke 3 of Newton's laws, and I think 2 of Kepler's here. So never doubt that the universe can surprise you. The other thing that I have learned from Lisa is that you should never miss an opportunity to express yourself, and what other people think of you is none of your business. When it comes to fashion, you wear it like it works, then it works. Some of that camouflage Jen was talking about. And go ahead, because be honest, you knew that I was going to need 2 slides to cover that lesson, didn't you? Okay, for the next one then, attitude is everything. And this next one I'll pause for just a little bit, because she taught me that chores can be opportunities for great creativity and fun. Now, if you can't tell, I'll forgive you, but this over here, can you see that on the far side? Right here. This is a gastronomical representation of Lisa and I on a water weenie wearing pickled pepper life preservers and mustard goggles afloat in a sea of baked beans to represent Lake Powell. Just next to that, you'll see a log cabin made of carrot sticks. And then in the upper left of the slide, you'll see a Munster teepee with a pretzel fire out front. And then bottom left, bread in the shape of teddy bears. So clearly, as Jason said earlier, Lisa's culinary creativity had some lukewarm results at times. I'll never forget the time when I was throwing a party and she offered to help me grill about 100 chicken sautés on these tiny little thin bamboo spears. And we were getting everything else ready, but I looked out the window and literally saw walls of flame just jumping from the grill as these tiny little pieces of wood were falling through the grates and fueling the fire. And there was Lisa calmly trying to blow it out like a birthday cake. She always kept her cool. Then, of course, there's the time that she tried to heat soup in the microwave without taking it out of the can. But we don't need to dwell, so we'll move on. Now, we being attacked by birds. what I learned from Lisa is go ahead and freak out. That's a reasonable response, it's fine. But after you freak out for a while, you might want to go ahead and just give in and appreciate the absurdity of it for a little while. And once you've done that, once you've really relished the ridiculousness, then go ahead and own it by throwing birdseed in the hair of your highly avianophobic friend. Because, yeah, that would be funny, right? At least for you and your masochistic fathers who are taking the picture. I'm just going to move on. Let's go back to food, actually. Who knew it could be relied upon whenever you find yourself in an accessorizing pinch? Or another thing I learned from Lisa, that it's actually an underrated artistic medium. She once, in fact, sculpted a near life-size turkey out of her family's Thanksgiving mashed potatoes. Lisa taught me not to take myself too seriously, to lighten up, to have more fun, to laugh in the face of adversity, and not to give a damn what anyone else thought. She taught me what it takes to be a good friend and how to live life fully. She did for me what she did for many of you. She gives clothes and makeup tips, but she also gave us new perspective on our own value. And for that, I'll always be grateful. Of course, no good student can just learn a lesson and move on. She needs to apply that lesson, right? So, in the spirit of Lisa and all that she taught me, all that she taught all of us, I am starting the Make Lisa Immortal campaign. This is the official launch. There'll be a press conference on Tuesday. Just wanted to share with you a few of the items on a very lengthy list that I have compiled in the last couple of weeks of ways that I'm going to carry Lisa forward with me in my daily life. Now, I know that you have your own lists. I'm sure you have many suggestions. These are just my humble suggestions for some to add to your list. For starters, may I humbly suggest that every once in a while you just randomly grab something and stuff it up your nose. You know, why not? Right? That would be a great way to honor her. And I know some of you might be thinking, whoa, too much too soon. Okay, so if you're not yet comfortable taking random objects and stuffing them up your nose, you could start by taking random objects and putting them on your head. You know, ease into it a little bit. The other thing you could do is just bust out a mask or a tiara and wear it out in public on an average Tuesday. That would be funny, and you know she loved funny. Or you could just bust out with something funny to say. That would honor her well. There are many more of these that I'm sure you all remember, and those that we've captured through the years. My favorite here is, hey Katie, spell I cup. It was on a road trip when we were about 20. Or you could snap a picture of yourself, or your hair, or your lips, and text it to a friend, just to let them know that you were thinking of them. Or you could go old school, and you could actually print a photo of one of your features, enlarged to absurd proportions, come up with a punny caption, and mail it to them. For extra measure, you could go ahead and throw some rose petals into the envelope if you liked. Just lift someone's spirit through an unexpected, joyful overture. You could turn an everyday chore or an errand into a secret mission. For as you know, with nothing but a monochromatic outfit and a slight attitude adjustment, delivering a message or picking up mannequins that no one wants, as I hear, or any other chore can become an adventure. You could dress your minuscule turtle in gargantuan sunglasses. Just saying. You could do that. Or you could develop unique pet names for all of your loved ones. My favorite here being Love Vitamin. Or you could just do something silly. Like when your dad's trying to take a picture of your friend and her dad, and he asks you to duck down behind them so that you're not visible. And then he counts to 3 so your friend and her dad can look up and not be blinded by the sun. You could pop out right on 3, you're flying. And then you could apologize and say, so sorry, you will not do that again. Duck down, hang out, and then as soon as he presses the button, just pop up again, hair flying. Yeah. And then you could apologize. You could swear you will not do that again. You're sorry. You won't do that again. Duck down, giggle to yourself, shaking so that you make the backs of the people in the photo shake.